I have spoken. These are the last words to have been spoken by Crazy Horse, the great leader of the Ogallala Sioux. This story begins at the Battle of Little Bighorn. In this battle, Lakota leaders Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull lead their warriors to defeat General Custer's army and protect land that was originally granted to them by the U.S. government. This brought on several battles with the Native Americans fleeing after being outnumbered. Sitting Bull fled to Canada for some time while Crazy Horse eventually surrendered in Nebraska. This is where he spoke his final words after being bayoneted by a guard at Fort Robinson. Crazy Horse did not allow his picture to be taken. This photo is thought to be Crazy Horse, but it is not certain. His final words are spoken with a message of peace. He explains that he was not hostile to white settlers. When forced into a reservation, he found that he preferred his way of life and wanted to live in peace. He states that his tribe bear no expense to the government. The United States government, as documented by both parties, destroyed the Lakota villages and eradicated the buffalo after finding gold in the Black Hills. Crazy Horse tells that his people thought of fleeing, but knew they must protect themselves as to not be the ones massacred. He intended to come and talk with the Big White Chief, but was killed by a guard. The original Lakota homelands were in what is now Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota Nation, also known as the Great Sioux Nation, descends from the original inhabitants of the North America and can be divided into three major linguistic and geographic groups: Lakota, Teton, West Dakota; Nakota, Yankton, Central Dakota; and Dakota, Santee, Eastern Dakota. There are around 100,000 Lakota tribal members in the United States. They reside mainly on 5 reservations: Rosebud Indian Reservation, Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Lower Brule Indian Reservation, Cheyenne River Indian Reservation, and Standing Rock Indian Reservation. The map on the left shows originally dedicated Lakota lands. The map on the right shows Lakota battlefields, including the Battle of Little Bighorn. The reservations that are home to Lakota tribal members are known as impoverished areas. It is said that the Sioux are some of the poorest in the United States. Many have no work and turn to drugs and alcohol. The life expectancy on these reservations are the lowest in the Western world. Those who do traditional tribal work such as beadwork and quilting rely on public assistance. Many others find career opportunities away from the reservation, and many live in white towns to avoid such poverty. The rates indicating negative life outcomes for the Lakota are staggering. The Lakota language is Lakota, Teton, or Teton Sioux. These are a Siouan language spoken by the Lakota people of the Sioux tribes. The term Sioux is said to be a false name that may be a French adaptation of a tribal word meaning snake. The Lakota have a strong spiritual culture based on a set of values. The Lakota were traditionally nomadic people, and their religious practices were based on the movement of the sun and moon. The sun dance was one of the most important ceremonial practices of the Lakota. The Lakota look to the Great Spirit that can be seen in the rhythm of life and recognize relations to all living things. The common food for Lakota was buffalo, although they did grow several crops. Due to tremendous struggles with the U.S. government, the Lakota people had lost touch with much of their culture. Around 2007, the Lakota people regained some strength, and many are working to strengthen cultural knowledge and rebuild. The Lakota Sioux hired a lawyer to regain the Black Hills under the Treaty of 1868. This was denied, and the Lakota sought compensation for the loss of their land. Another lawsuit was dismissed, saying ruling had been given regarding the Black Hills. In 1980, the Lakota Sioux were awarded $17.5 million due to the unjust taking of their land. They refused the money, stating that the Black Hills are not for sale. That money has been left untouched and now amounts to over $1 billion. There is some tribal conflict over the money, as some would prefer compensation. This case is not settled amongst the Lakota people to this day. As many would like their land, many would like compensation and also recognition for crimes committed at Wounded Knee. The Black Hills stretch across western South Dakota, northeast Wyoming, and southeast Montana, and constitute a sacred landscape for the Lakota. To the Lakota, they are Paha Sapa, the heart of everything that is. The history of the Black Hills shows one of the most blatant land grabs in U.S. history and continues to be the site of a legal and political confrontation. In 1868, the U.S. government had signed a treaty recognizing South Dakota's Black Hills as part of the Great Sioux Reservation. After gold was discovered in the Black Hills in 1874, the government broke the treaty and took control of the land. The Catholic mission St. Francis was established in the 1800s in South Dakota. Jesuits were welcomed to St. Francis in the early 1800s and intertwined with the Lakota culture. The Jesuits were to teach Lakota to read and write English. Now, in preservation of the Lakota language, both English and Lakota are taught. Chapels have been replaced with parishes and are run by Lakota leaders on the reservations. The parishes today provide much needed support to the adversity faced by the Lakota people. Although early missionization was negative, the mission has been turned into a place of family support and healing. In conclusion, the Lakota people still face much adversity. There are deep spiritual teachings and a rich culture that I believe will be preserved. Many wonderful things are happening in the reservations to try and heal trauma and alleviate adversity. I do not have a clear answer of how the Lakota tribe can move forward with their demands of the U.S. government. It is my hope that such a beautiful culture can persevere and shine from the heroes that fought for their people to live in peace.